So at Wildstrong, we do program a lot of burpees. I think the burpee is a great movement. It's really good for conditioning. And if you keep the form tight, it's a really nice way to challenge core stability, to kind of teach people that dynamic anti-extension movement so that they don't go into hyperextension. It's really good because it gets people comfortable getting down on the ground and up off the ground again really quickly. So you're spending time on the ground, which is nice. You're spending time getting up. Really high quality conditioning in that. Burpees will get you tired faster than almost anything else. So if you're designing a workout and you do want that conditioning element, burpees are great as an option there. They don't require any tools, and then you can do lots of variations on burpees depending on what your needs are. So they're a really versatile movement, and it is useful getting everybody doing them. You don't necessarily need to do a competition style burpee. There's lots of variations of burpees that'll be useful for different people. Even just having people get down to the ground and back up again can be really beneficial. Lots of different points of performance with different organizations, how they do their burpees differently. I think that honestly there's lots of good ways to do burpees. There are some organizations that do burpees really controlled. So you'll have some organizations that will do something like this, where they have some variation of a squat, maybe raise their knees a little bit, and they'll come here, they'll kick out to a sprawl, they'll do a nice press up, they'll do a press up back up, they'll come up to some kind of modified squat position, and then they'll stand. Sometimes they'll jump, and that's all well and good. Probably for the last 15 years or so, the standard burpee has been a competition style burpee, which has been, the standard has been from a standing position, get your chest down to the ground, pop yourself back up, open up your hips, and usually jump and clap at the top with different variations in between. So a standard competition burpee that you'll see in competitive exercise groups and a lot of group exercise things would look something like this. From here, I'm going to sprawl, chest, pop myself up, I'm going to stand, I'm going to clap at the same time. From the side, as I'm coming up, I want to make sure my hips are open, both toes come off the ground, and I clap overhead. So it's going to be chest to ground, pop up, clap, chest to ground, pop up, clap. So that'll be the standard burpee that we use at Wildstrong. Sometimes if the ground is really muddy or if it's wet, we'll do different scaling options. So probably the most common one we'll do is a nurpee. And in a lot of ways, I really like nurpees because they really focus on hip extension and they focus on keeping your abs strong when you sprawl out. So a nurpee, the standard is instead of sprawling out chest to ground, you sprawl out into a plank or modified plank position, keeping your abs tight. And then when you come up, you're just focusing on standing, squeezing your bum and standing tall. So a nurpee would look like this. I'm gonna sprawl out, being careful not to end up in this hyperextension position. So my abs are tight. I'd rather that your bum is a little bit too high and then a little bit too low on this one. And then when you come up, you stand, squeeze your bum, stand tall, so everything stacks. So it's sprawl, stand, sprawl, stand. That's a really nice movement. It sort of takes out the press up element, but it's really good for conditioning. It's really good for your core. So that's gonna be one of the most standard ones. If you're working with people that are real beginners, then you can just do a down and up, which is just literally getting down to the ground and getting back up again. Take out any kind of explosive element. You can bring the numbers down if you want, because they do take much longer. So it could be as simple as come down on the ground any way you want to, stand back up any way you want to, that's fine. You could also just do to a sprawl standing back up. So it can be step down to a plank, step back up, try to use your different legs to lead. That's really good as well. Now on the burpees, when we first show people how to do burpees, a lot of times they'll be quite inefficient in the burpee. So what we'll do is sometimes we'll do a deconstructed or a slowed down burpee, because they'll see people doing burpees quickly, and when they try to do it, they end up with this sort of really inefficient movement. Sometimes they kick their legs up high like they're breakdancing. Sometimes they try to do a strict press up. Sometimes they'll peel themselves off the ground. So the way that we'll normally break this down is from a standing position. I'll say, okay, however you can, I want you to get your fingertips to the ground. Okay, so my heels are gonna come off ground a little bit. So it's fingertips to the ground. Okay, and then you're gonna do a sprawl, chest to ground. So instead of just to sprawl out like that, I'm gonna sprawl and lower my chest to the ground at the same time. When I come up, I'm gonna pop myself up, a surfer pop up like that. Then I'm gonna stand, jump, clap. So if I do it a little bit faster, it's fingertips, sprawl, pop, jump, clap, fingertips, sprawl, pop, jump, clap. And if you teach people those positions, they'll end up doing it much, much faster, much, much more efficiently than if they try to sort of do this breakdance or press up movement, which ends up putting a lot of pressure on their back and slowing them down. So when people do burpees, there's lots of faults, and sometimes it's because you fail to communicate what you want out of the burpees. Sometimes there can be interference from people who've done burpees in other organizations. Maybe they've done them with boot camps or whatever. So it's good to define what you want a burpee to be. Don't just assume that everybody's burpee is the same. That being said, there are some common faults that you'll see in the burpee. One of the ones actually that I see quite a lot is the breakdancer kick. So when people want to get down to the ground, sometimes people will sort of kick their legs up high and do that little motion. I don't know why people do that, but loads of people do. There's a lot of people who kick their legs up high. I think they just think they're standing from here and they want to get down low, so they just sort of kick their legs up and get down there. This is why you want to break the burpee down. So this is why we teach fingertips to ground and then sprawl to here. So you just want to make a nice efficient drop on the burpee. You want to make sure that you're not kicking your legs up. And then other ones we see quite a lot, people doing a slow press up on the burpee, which is actually fine if you want to, but it's going to fatigue you and it's going to turn it into a different movement. It takes what's supposed to be a conditioning movement and turns it more into an upper body pushing movement. So what I mean is sometimes people have been taught to do their burpees like this with a controlled press down and then maybe a press up. And often what you'll see is if they do the press up, if they think about the press up, they'll often end up in a position like this, which will put a lot of pressure on their lower back, which is why we teach the pop up like that. Same thing on the way down. What I like about doing fast burpees is it teaches people how to absorb energy, and there's a bit of a controlled fall in there, which is actually really beneficial. So instead of doing the slow controlled movement down, when you get your fingertips to here, you can just focus on absorbing that energy. Your hands are there and you can learn how to control the fall and pop yourself back up again. So once again, when we do burpees, I don't want to see a sort of bad slow push up like this and then a peeling push up like that. I just want to think down quickly, pop, up quickly, pop. So the slow press up, we've got the leg kick up, the back peeling. If you do have people who are putting a lot of pressure on their back, a couple things you can tell. So if people end up doing a lot of this, you can just see if they can lead with their bum a little bit when they're doing it, so that they're not peeling themselves off like that. Again, take some time to show people how to pop themselves up like that. But if they don't seem to have enough strength or coordination to do it right now, just have them do nurpees instead. So just get them to feel that nice sprawl into a plank position and pop themselves back up, and that'll help them build up the core strength and familiarity with the movement before they go on to the full burpees.